the school that I had my first year teaching at, in the English pods, or like the giant trailers that have like the 6 classrooms in it, there was a teacher that started getting very sick, and she went to her doctor, and she had black mold in her system.
That's not addressed enough. Like, it is all over.
Black mold?
Black mold, literally, like in her bloodstream. And she like had like the little testing kits, like she got from her doctor from wherever, the testing kits to see wasn't coming from her house, wasn't coming from her car. She tested it and it was coming from her classroom. And the school literally like forced her to sign like all these documents that she couldn't tell people about it. They didn't tell the school, or they didn't tell the kids. They didn't tell the other teachers.
They made her
didn't tell
sign
the
an NDA.
It's not a pretty sight.
How bad do you figure a moisture problem would have to be for literal mushrooms to sprout from living room carpet? This bad. Renisha Jackson discovered the problem in early October when her 3-year-old came from behind the couch with wet feet.
And I'm like, why is your socks wet? I go back there and it was a mushroom.
Several mushrooms, black mold, and rotted baseboards.
Horrible. I don't like living here. I haven't been here. Me and my baby been house to house since this issue, which I don't think is fair, and they're not doing anything to help us.
In the basement, the subflooring is dripping wet. One of the remarkable things is this is the exterior wall that's completely dry. This is an interior wall that's soaking wet. Her couch is right up here above moldy and what looks to be rotted wood. Renisha's daughter has lung problems she blames on the mold.
Her doctors and them said the same thing. She cannot be around mold. Urgent care, children's, everybody said she can't be around mold. So I took it to my landlord. Still nothing.
What do you mean nothing? Like when you told them about this, did anyone come look at it?
No. They will tell me they did, but if they did, it still wouldn't look like that.
We found a bathtub in another apartment on the other side of the wall is broken and leaking. City property records for Lindsay Commons here at 22nd and Galena show it was sold 2 years ago to a Beverly Hills-based real estate investment group. When we called them for comment, they claimed we had the wrong number. Renisha is tired of fighting. She's moving out, leaving everything behind.
Okay.
It's just, for you, the risk of taking this stuff with is just going to be a continuous kind of danger.
I'm more for my child.
Her only choice now, she says, is to start over. In Milwaukee, Nick Ford, WISN 12 News.
This is just the room I'm going to show you now. Where it have all the smells, yeah.
Yeah, you can smell the damp coming from this room.
8 years of damp and mould have blighted this lady's life in Ilminster Block. She lives just a few doors from little Awab's former home. She's in the early stages of pregnancy and is terrified.
I'm very worried now because the kid dies. Maybe it could happen to me. People who are living with kids, families, they should be in a safe place.
Originally from Iraq, she doesn't want to be identified, but says Rochdale Borough-wide Housing is not interested in her decaying property, claiming each time she reports this mould, they tell her to buy anti-damp paint and cover it.
Those pictures were of this wall that you have had to paint over yourself.
Yes, painting it myself. It was really damp.
When you sent those pictures of this wall to RBH, what was their response?
I say, look how bad is my flat. Different inspectors coming but not doing things right. Still saying you can open the window.
All our team will make sure that we're open and honest.
Yesterday, the Housing Secretary called on this man, the Chief Executive of RBH, to resign. Today in the Commons, Mr Gove said their lack of action in the Awab Ishaq case was a terrible dereliction of duty.
I've already been in touch with the Chair and the Chief Executive of Rochdale Borough-wide Housing to demand answers, to explain to me why a tragedy like Awab's case was ever allowed to happen, and to hear what steps they are now undertaking immediately to improve the living conditions of the tenants for which they are responsible.
RBH tonight told us they have visited every flat on this estate to check for damp and mould. But this lady is haunted by Awab's death and now sleeps here instead of in her bedroom because she is too worried about consequences for her unborn child.
Patsy and her daughter have been sleeping rough for 6 months. They moved into a tent because their home is making them sick. They say their social housing landlords wouldn't help, so they called us.
We lived here for 10 years. We didn't know why we were sick, and then we realised it was the house.
It looks like a pretty normal house.
You know something's wrong, but when you look around, you can't see it.
So what's around us?
Very high levels of mould and bacteria.
An invisible, toxic cocktail.
You can't breathe this in. You can't breathe it in.
Patsy says it's made her sick and her daughter too. All they want is to get out of this house. The social housing provider wants them out too, but it hasn't found them another mould-free home.
It's very difficult.
So, what do you do?
Hey, how you going?
Hi, good, thank you.
Patsy?
No, Patsy's mum, Diane.
The mum?
I'm the mum.
Where's Patsy?
In the garage.
In here?
Yes.
We meet Patsy in her mum's garage at Blacktown in Sydney's West.
Hi.
Right now, the 47-year-old and her 17-year-old daughter Madeline are living in a tent.
So this is home?
Mm-hmm. It is.
How long have you been doing this for?
Over 6 months.
So how do you live in here?
We've tried to make it the best that we can. It's not nice. I feel like I'm a parked car, and we've just been disposed of. The dogs sleep down the end, and our clothes are in plastic buckets.
That's your wardrobe?
Yep, that's our wardrobe.
And what's behind us here?
So I homeschool Madeline. I have done since year 5.
And under the desk is the esky, full of medication.
So how many tablets do you pop each morning?
So I have to take 36.
36 tablets?
Right.
A pharmacy in an esky?
Mm-hmm.
Patsy explains she's got SIRS, a chronic inflammatory condition that can be triggered by mould. Her registered doctors have confirmed the diagnosis with us.
Sore throat, sore nose, sore eyes.
And that's just the start. Fatigue, muscle and joint pain, and constant sickness follow. Or, in Madeline's case,
heightened anxiety, because mould exposure does cause anxiety, depression, a multitude of things.
The teenager's been provided an assistance dog to help. The physical and mental effects of SIRS apparently so dire, they won't dare set foot in the adjoining home for more than a few seconds.
We are very high risk of and sensitive to mould, and my mother has a small amount in her bathroom, so we can't use her bathroom, we can't sleep in her house. We did try.
And if something happens to me, where are they going to go? They don't have any other family.
We toilet in a bucket with a garbage bag. It's not nice.
It doesn't sound nice.
No, it's not.
Patsy takes us to the rental home at Wentworthville, the cause of the problem.
What are we going to find when we go in?
That's tricky because visually you can't see the contamination.
What is plain to see, Patsy and Madeline are petrified.
I don't go inside the house.
Why's that?
I don't feel comfortable being in there, even if I had a mask to put on.
How do you feel about setting foot in this house?
I don't like it. Sorry.
It's all right, are you okay? Now, if you were me, would you walk inside this house without putting something on your face?
No, I can't even stand at the door.
It's that bad?
You have to wear a mask, yeah. You have to wear a mask, yes.
So right here, it looks like a pretty normal house.
It does. You know, that's where psychologically also it plays around with you.
So is there any physical mould in here?
A little bit, yes.
Can you show me where that is?
Sure, yeah.
The house is near new and very clean.
People would see that and say, the mould's worse in my house.
Correct.
But Patsy has paid for experts to test for moisture and mould, and the results are there for all to see. When no one listened, she let the whole street know. Her landlord bowed to pressure and tested the home.
Only recently.
What did those tests find?
Continued occupancy ill-advised.
Ill-advised.
Correct.
Their own report has shown that you should not be living here.
Yes. They ignored my report and left us living in the backyard in pouring rain, showering outside, toilet in a bucket.
Yeah, I had to make a hole.
Patsy says she's never missed rent and continues to pay it despite having proof that she shouldn't be living in the home. She still goes to the property each day to use her outdoor shower. But this won't be happening for much longer. Hume Community Housing has told her to get out. The eviction notice given after it failed to find a home without mould for this mother and daughter to live.
The landlord, I guess, tried to imply that I'm mental, even after I gave them the report.
How have you been treated by Hume Housing?
We deserve a home to live in. We deserve to be treated with respect. They're just disposing of us like we're just rubbish.
Patsy's been told to contact the Department of Housing and join the waiting list. Until then, she'll be here with her daughter living in a tent, unsure where her next shower will be.
Has this home destroyed your life?
Yeah. I don't even know how I'm going to come back from it. I will keep fighting because my daughter is my motivation. I can't let her see me just give up.
Classes start again on Monday, but for some students, which professor they'll have isn't their only concern.
Because of the mold situation.
Kamaya Fletcher is returning to Teeter Hall and an air purifier in her room. It's one of 3 dorm buildings affected by breakouts of mold this year. Fortunately, though, her room was determined to be safe.
Us personally, we didn't get to move out because our room got cleared for the green zone, so we could still come back.
That's not the case for Isabel and Jen.
Should we put this in my car? Yeah.
Who have to move out of their old room and into a new building.
And they sent us an email about a week ago, and our dorm was in the red, so we have to be relocated.
Both said they got sick last year but didn't know their room was impacted. They now think it was because of the mold.
We had no clue.
18 other rooms at Teeter were found to be unsafe, but IU officials say most are. They spent the last several weeks cleaning, re-cleaning, and monitoring rooms.
It's not something that we feel like we're over and done with. We're going to be vigilant about this, make sure that the conditions are right and we understand where this came from to begin with, and we're going to continue to work until the problem is completely resolved.
For Jen and Isabel, moving again isn't fun, but they're also thankful.
I mean, I think it's frustrating, but we're also happy that we're not going to be in a dorm full of mold anymore.
And IU has a website to provide updates on cleaning and the mold situation for students and parents with concerns. You can get a link to that by going to our website, WTHR.com. Reporting in Bloomington, Alan Carter, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
IU President Michael McRobbie began his annual State of the University address addressing concerns about mold.
We're doing everything we can to provide a safe and healthy environment for our students.
As McRobbie spoke, crews continued inspecting rooms and removing mold at the Foster and McNutt quads. The university also released this video to further reassure students and parents.
At the core of this is student safety.
Rachel Russell lives in one of the nearly 300 rooms where mold was found and removed.
So like when we'd sleep, like I would be all stuffed up and like I couldn't breathe. But now they cleared it out, so it's better now.
She and her friend Jalen Walters say overall IU's handled the situation fairly well.
Putting the kids out of the area with the mold by putting them in the union and
different hotels. They're doing a decent job. They could probably do a little bit better if maybe asking people or trying to inspect all the rooms.
But these 3 students who wore masks to McRobbie's speech say IU could be doing a lot better.
We actually did have mold in our pipes at one point, and they removed it, and they've been checking our room saying that it's clean, but we have a suspicion that it's not.
Because we've been sick the entire time we've been here.
If they're cleaning the floor above us, they should just take everyone out of the building, because it's in the air, we're all breathing it in.
As the complaints come in, we send a crew out. We're in a full-scale mode.
Ben Hunter, interim director of public safety, says so far they've inspected nearly 400 rooms.
We're doing the remediation. We've answered the concerns that have been raised. We brought in a third party to do some independent testing.
Hunter expects it'll take 2 to 3 weeks before they're done cleaning up. And as for the cost of all this, he says they're not yet sure. In Bloomington, Mary Mills, Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
It's horrible to do people like that. I shouldn't have to endure this all weekend.
Leaks are all around India McKinney's apartment, and now mold is forming on her kitchen ceiling, a problem she claims she's had off and on for years.
Their repairs consist of kilt and painting over this problem like a Band-Aid.
McKinney has been living at the Wingate Gardens apartments in Southwest D.C. since 2015. On Monday, DCRA inspected her unit after she placed an emergency call. The inspector deemed it unfit and unsafe. Ms. McKinney says the DCRA inspector was the first person to take her complaint seriously.
Actually, he was the best thing that I ever came in contact with. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have no justice.
We reached out to the property manager on site. She told WUSA 9 she's never actually seen the problems in the unit and was unaware of any work orders about mold McKinney had filed and said drywall repairs were scheduled for later in the week. But McKinney showed us 2 reports she's filed this month alone. With small puddles around her home and smelly mold growing in her kitchen, McKinney says she has nowhere to go.
So I'm in my car, no food. It's a struggle for me, a hardship for me to get food and everything. It's messed up.
The property management company referred WUSA 9 to their corporate office when we asked what their plans were to get McKinney into a new unit.
And I kept trying to reach out to them. They kept brushing it off, throwing it off, and here we are.
Reporting in Southwest D.C., Megan Rivers, WUSA 9.
An eye on any potential school closings in Detroit overnight that may not be due to the weather.
Well, today, Devin, 2/3 of Detroit public schools were closed due to a sick out. And one of the teachers' reasons is deplorable conditions in the schools. Jason Colthorpe is live at Werner Elementary tonight with the latest disturbing piece of evidence found there. Jason?
Carmen, earlier today we were shocked to see those pictures of black mold growing at Spain Elementary School, where tonight we got a picture of mushrooms, and this is Werner Elementary, mushrooms that are growing on the walls, and we confirmed this beyond these doors of this elementary school. This may be a drug-free zone, but there are mushrooms inside this school, not the illegal kind, the disgusting kind. Teachers tell me they've seen mushrooms growing in other schools where they were just scraped off and school went on as normal. But there's nothing normal in the Detroit public schools these days, say teachers.
The sick out is a response to just some of the deplorable conditions that the students find themselves in.
Tracy Russell is a DPS grad, a DPS teacher, and his 3 kids are in DPS.
It's a turning point for Detroit. The stigma on urban education that has to end, to just live in a district where you constantly hear this isn't right, they're performing poorly, and I know it's not true.
As teachers call for public hearings to address these problems, they can't help but see a parallel to Flint, where unaddressed problems by the state, which has been in charge of DPS for 7 years, is leading to possible dangerous health conditions for children.
They were poisoned to save a dime. Now, so it just begs the question, we can do better. And what the sick out says, enough is enough.
I also asked Russell if he could empathize with the parents who are, dealing with child care issues because of all these sick outs that pop up very unexpectedly. And he said a lot of the parents he has are not upset. They empathize, or they understand that teachers are just looking out for the safety of children. By the way, tomorrow is when the mayor and the emergency manager will be touring DPS schools looking at those deplorable conditions. Live on the west side tonight, Jason Colthorpe, Local 4.
All right, Jason.
Right now, 11 preschool centers in Pinellas County are closed. Lutheran Services of Florida tackling mold problems discovered inside the schools. ABC Action News reporter Sarah Hollenbeck is in Clearwater, where parents are now scrambling to find other options.
The start of school now delayed at 11 Head Start campuses as school leaders work to clean and remove the mold. Signs posted outside the school campuses alert parents to maintenance issues. School workers discovered mold on 11 campuses in Clearwater, St. Pete, and Tarpon Springs. They tell us the issues range from a small amount of mold found in an AC cabinet or under a sink to mold particles found in the air. The closures impact 900 preschool students who are supposed to go back to school tomorrow, leaving parents scrambling to find other options.
We feel devastated by that aspect of it. It was a hard decision to close the schools because we knew it put a hardship on parents. But we felt like the safety of the kids was more important.
Right now, Lutheran Services of Florida tells us they are running more tests, having a mold remediation company visit all 11 campuses, and will retest the air a final time this week to make sure it's safe for the kids to return. Ahead at 6, we're looking into how often preschools are inspected for mold and other issues. Reporting in Pinellas County, I'm Sarah Hollenbeck, ABC Action News.
I got sick about 4 or 5 times in about 2 months.
UT freshman Emma Thomas says this semester is the sickest she's ever been.
My roommate started experiencing dizzy spells and headaches, and so we both took our fair share of trips to the doctor, paying plenty of money.
She says that's because of what she says is mold she found in and around her air vent at Clement Hall on UT's campus. Thomas called maintenance.
They looked at our vent and they told us that is completely normal. That's what every vent in campus looks like. It's completely healthy. We'll just wipe it off and you can go about your day.
But Thomas says she was missing class because she was sick and her parents weren't happy.
My parents talked to housing multiple times.
The university moved Thomas and a roommate to Orange Hall Friday. This isn't the first time there's been mold concerns in a dorm this year. In October, UT closed Laurel Hall for the rest of the school year for mold removal. That forced 586 students to move out. The university then tested all residence halls for mold. As of October 19th, it says testing indicated 7 rooms among 367 tested had elevated levels of mold. At least one of those rooms was in Clement Hall. There are no plans to relocate any of those residents. Meanwhile, Thomas advises any concerned students to take action.
Honestly, if you find mold in your room, get out, because I did a lot of research while this whole process was going on, and the effects it can have long-term or short-term are awful.
This is a report concerning the air quality test of the New Prospect School.
Kerry Mashburn started doing his own digging.
He come home with severe headaches, severe nosebleeds. The school system needs to step up.
Trying to figure out why his 8th grade son kept getting sick.
I've noticed my son has a cough, just a dry cough all the time.
Tracy Clark's son is in the same grade. Both students used to spend most of their day in these portable classrooms at New Prospect Elementary. In December, an inspection revealed a big problem.
The portables tested positive for mold, including black mold. It was found on the ceilings, computers, and on books. The company that conducted the inspection say it could have been there for months, maybe even years.
Poor drainage is to blame. Maintenance crews conducted a deep cleaning. Then the 7th and 8th graders and their teachers returned to the portables after winter break.
We just kept pushing the issue and told them we're not going to go away till something's done.
Despite secondary tests showing classes could be held in the portables,
it says here you have a serious condition.
Increasing concerns of parents as district leaders locking them down for good. But it's also created another issue inside the building. Overcrowding.
We've been able to utilize that art room as a classroom, as well as the pre-K room. We've been able to utilize it as a classroom as well. So the pre-K students have had to shift to a different location.
It's a short-term solution for the rest of the school year, one that pleases parents.
My concern now is my son and the other kids' long-term health. What has this done to them? How do we know this has not affected them for the rest of their lives?
It's still unknown how or if the mold has had any effect. In Lawrenceburg, Andrea Klein-Thomas, News Channel 5 HD.
The school nurse is gathering data to see how many students were treated for allergy-related issues this school year. Meanwhile, the board is considering long-term options to deal with overcrowding.
Tonight, a KXAN investigation. The Austin Independent School District says it is their largest classroom mold removal ever, and it wasn't a teacher who tipped them off about this problem, Erin.
No, it was a mother with a very sick child. She believes it's a health concern other parents should know about, which is why she contacted KXAN.
When you send your child off to school, so many worries can cross a parent's mind.
We bring our kids to school to make sure they're safe, to learn.
Protected from elements outside and even the less noticeable factors inside. Like most parents, Jennifer Matos was excited when her daughter Sapphira started pre-K at Oak Springs Elementary in East Austin. But 2 weeks into this school year, that feeling was gone.
I've been terrified. It was a huge wake-up call.
Sapphira had gone to bed complaining about her throat and stomach hurting. Jennifer is deaf, so she couldn't hear her daughter struggling through the night. When she woke up to get her ready for school,
And I noticed that her stomach was heaving. That was getting really big as she was breathing.
her mom shot this video to document the symptoms, then drove Sapphira to the emergency room at Dell Children's Hospital. Doctors told her she was having an asthma attack. Jennifer says it was a first for this 4-year-old.
After that, I asked the doctor, you know, what kind of things can cause asthma? And one of those was mold.
A pediatrician at Dell Children's says mold spores don't affect everyone. It depends on your sensitivity, and age plays a big factor.
Younger children, their airways are much smaller, so it takes less inflammation to cause problems in a younger child than a full-grown adult.
Jennifer says Oak Springs was the only new place Sapphira had been. She texted her teacher and asked if the campus could test for mold.
We just take a real good look at the entire area to kind of see what may be visually there.
The answer was yes, after a visual inspection of Sapphira's classroom. A licensed mold assessment consultant with Austin ISD
We'll turn the unit on.
used her air quality calculator.
We like to see the relative humidity at least below 60.
In this room, it was higher, which meant conditions were good for mold to grow. Next, she used this mobile pump to collect an air sample.
Any of the mold spores that are present are captured here, and we send this to a lab. This is only a 5-minute test.
When the results were in, Sapphira's classroom came back unacceptable with a high mold count. The test also revealed the type of spores, Aspergillus and Penicillium, two of the most common types caused by high humidity and condensation.
We saw it on the bookshelves on these little what do you call wooden blocks here. On this area here, it was fairly heavy. Also the wood part right around the bulletin boards.
AISD's housekeeping supervisor was in charge of the cleanup. Her team came in with a chemical called mold eliminator and wiped everything down. And remember that high humidity? A few tweaks were made to the AC unit. Then it was time to test again. Lab results showed the mold count was lower, but still unacceptable. The cleaning crew came back for a second round.
Each little block or little piece of puzzle had to be submerged into the liquid of mold eliminator.
It took 2 days to pull everything out of the room and wipe it down from top to bottom. Even the rug was sent off for a professional cleaning.
Third test, third time was a charm.
Third time was a charm. Extremely pleased.
The mold count finally down to 0. But Sapphira hasn't been back to Oak Springs since her trip to the ER. Her mom says about a week and a half later, the asthma was gone, and she doesn't need this inhaler anymore.
My gut told me not to send her back to school.
Jennifer is worried about the rest of the campus. We learned the district also tested the room next door, which came back fine, but they also had to clean a computer lab where there was more visible mold.
Why would you not check every single classroom and every single inch of this school to make sure it's mold free?
When we receive a complaint, then we test that space.
Where does that child spend the most time?
Yes, yes.
If she comes to you guys and says, can you please test every room, every hallway, I'm not bringing my daughter back till I know that campus is safe. Would you do that?
There wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be a problem to give her peace of mind.
I'm mostly worried about my daughter, but I am worried about the other kids too.
For now, Sapphira is going to work with her dad at the YMCA and is in their daycare program. Her mom would love to send her back to the school she loves. So what is the school doing to make sure the mold doesn't come back? Now that they've attacked the problem spots, I am told custodians will continue cleaning at a higher level. I have discovered part of the reason the school doesn't test every inch. That would take a lot of time and money. AISD tells us to get an air quality test back from the lab in 3 to 5 days for one room is about $34. To speed up the process and get results in just 3 hours, it's about $109. There have to be signs of a problem before they test: visible mold, high humidity, or someone getting sick. Parents can request a test by contacting your child's principal. I also requested records of all air quality testing AISD has done in the last 2 years. They have tested 28 of its 116 school campuses. Some schools had multiple tests in different areas like classrooms, halls, libraries, and band halls. Mold levels at 7 of the schools came back unacceptable. Wynn, Burnett, Kiker, Travis, CAC, which is the administration building, Berther Sadler Means, Oak Springs, all had to be remediated. We have the results for every school tested in the last 2 years on our website. Check to see if your child's campus is on the list in the investigative section right now. It's important to know every local district I checked with, all of the large local districts do not do regular mold testing. It is solely complaint driven. Erin Cargile, KXAN investigates.
Erin, thank you. And earlier on KXAN News at 6, we followed mold inspection experts through a moldy house. If your drywall gets too damp, it is the perfect breeding ground for this mess. Take a look online to see how involved the removal process can be. We'll walk you through step by step right now on KXAN.com.